Black Earth offers a full suite of humic solutions, from high-purity granules to powder, liquid, and soluble formulations, all powered by pure Humulite. Trusted by growers worldwide from one of the world's rarest Humulite reserves. Grow stronger with the power of Black Earth Humulite. Learn more from Mind to Market by visiting blackearth.com.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147 Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Friday edition of the show. Thanks so much, everybody, for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. Also, of course, big shout out to everybody listening out there on the RealAg Radio podcast. It's Friday, which means podcast listeners get a special bonus segment as well. And a lot of times, that's where things get unruly. That's where things get heated. Let me tell you, I just have to I should probably put a bit of a disclaimer at the front end of the bonus segment. But we're gonna have some fun here today. Of course, it was the Calgary Stampede this week, all week. I was there on Wednesday. I actually ran into one of our RealAg Issues panel members, Tyler McCann from Cappy. We were together on pretty much the whole day Wednesday, which was a lot of fun at the International Livestock Congress, as well as the Ag Reception. I also saw Kelvin and Lyndsey earlier in the week. We had a bit of a meeting on Monday, Tuesday, doing a bunch of strategy and stuff like that here in at the mothership in Lethbridge, Alberta. So I've seen the whole gang in person. Well, now we're going to get together virtually, and we're going to talk about the biggest issues of the week. We've got new Trump tariff threats coming out of the U.S., 35% on non-USMCA goods and services. So there is that to talk about. And just, Carney come to the Stampede, can't flip a pancake. We had Mr. McDonald come and give a couple different speeches to ag stakeholders at the Stampede this week as well. So lots to chat about here on today's program. If you have any feedback, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Or, of course, you can always call that RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Let's take a break. When we come back, we got the RealAg Issues panel standing by right after this.
Soil health is under pressure, but real solutions start below the surface. Black Earth offers a full suite of humic solutions, from high-purity granules to powder, liquid, and soluble formulations, all powered by pure Humulite. Formulated for performance, backed by consistency, trusted by growers worldwide from one of the world's rarest reserves. Grow stronger with the power of Black Earth Humulite. Learn more from Mind to Market at blackearth.com.
Peter Johnson at WheatPete, RealAgriculture.com, and what an opportunity! Oh my gosh! You think you can't grow better wheat? You are absolutely wrong. We're going to show you how to strive for those record wheat yields that they get in the UK and in New Zealand. You can grow 150 bushel wheat. I'll show you how.
Catch WheatPete's Word every Wednesday on RealAgriculture.com or download the podcast on iTunes or Spotify.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here for the RealAg Issues panel. Hey, with volatile markets and rising costs, now is your chance to be a part of the solution. It's time to secure your future with Genesis Fertilizers. Gain control and ensure access to locally produced nitrogen. Act now to protect your farm's future for generations. All you got to do is visit genesisfertilizers.com. Let's get to the RealAg Issues panel. Up first, it is Kelvin Heppner coming out of Altona, Manitoba. Kelvin, how are we doing?
Doing well here, Shaun. We're cleaning out the bins this week. Last of our canola going out today. Finished the wheat yesterday. So, actually some of the spring wheats around here is starting to lose a little bit of its green already. So it'll be here before we know it.
Happens fast, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Flying by.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing. midway of July here already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the smoke has rolled in here again. We're back under an emergency order again as of yesterday in Manitoba with wildfires up north and bringing that smoke down south here.
Yeah. Also joining us is Lyndsey Smith coming out of Ottawa, Ontario. Lyndsey, how are we doing?
This show brought to you by caffeine and possible naps. It has been, I think, for everybody here on the panel, it has been a week. And so doing well. Back in Ottawa here after a jaunt out to Alberta this week, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And it is hot and sticky and gross. But Kelvin, I was actually in a spring wheat field yesterday or last night that is flowering. So you guys are way ahead of us in that.
We're still
sense.
flowering here, but it's just moisture dependent on how quickly it's moving.
Turning.
Yeah, turning. Yeah, exactly. Whereas, I think down in southern Ontario, they're into the winter barley and that sort of stuff. But the winter crops definitely are chugging along towards being done. So it's kind of wild. But that means our excitement this morning, Chris was getting the seeder ready to put some fall grazing stuff in and found a hornet's nest. So that was great. He's a very good sprinter, even at his age. Let's put it that way.
And it was a hornet's nest that wasn't like a metaphor for you just being...
No, it's a literal hornet's nest.
Oh. Not as dangerous as the other, but...
I suppose. It depends how you look at it.
Yeah.
He's not allergic, so I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. Also joining us is the managing director of CAPI. It is Tyler McCann. Hey, Tyler, how are we doing?
I'm doing well, Shaun. Also drinking lots of coffee this morning, but got to do a bit of a tour. Was in Quebec City talking to Seeds Canada on Tuesday of the week. Was in Calgary at the Stampede on Wednesday. Made it home in the wee hours last night, and lots to talk about. It's been hard to kind of stay on top of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You had my kind of travel week this week.
I did, and I don't know how you do it, Shaun. Especially in your old age, it's hard to keep up with that.
Well, old as Lyndsey, I'll mention that.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out.
Well, speaking of Seeds Canada, news broke this week that the announcement was made. Barry Senft, head of Seeds Canada, in 2026. Tyler.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the exact date, but
he's retiring.
But soon enough, that signal. This is Barry's, I don't know, second or third retirement, but he has spent a long time. One of a relatively small number of people in Canadian agriculture that's worked in Western Canada, worked in Eastern Canada, worked in government, and in the industry, and has, of course, maintains a pretty strong connection to farming, and is back involved in the Saskatchewan farm. So I think Barry's been, and after a long storied career, has got a well-earned retirement.
Yeah, so Seed World has a story that Barry's going to step down January 30th of 2020.
Okay, so early. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lyndsey?
Well, I was just going to echo Tyler's sentiment. For, of course, the Ontario people would know him very well for having seen Grain Farmers of Ontario through its birth, basically. So he brought it all together and led it through its first several years, and then on to Seeds Canada. And I always appreciate talking to Barry because exactly that, as Tyler pointed out, still has the family farm in Saskatchewan that he now spends a lot of time at, but would still go back and forth. So like me, with lots of roots out west, but living in the east, we'd always have lots to talk about. So well done, Barry. I'm sure he'll still stay very busy.
He's kind of done it all, right? Head of Sigi at one time. He's got
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kelvin.
That's where I used to talk to Barry back when he was executive director at Sigi in Winnipeg back in the 2000s, and kind of haven't touched base with him as much since he moved east.
I can remember when you said the birth of the GFO. There is a video on YouTube and RealAgriculture.com where I think Barry and I did a conversation at a Seeds, or at the time it would have been a CSTA meeting. Mm-hmm. And it was, what is the GFO? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like the actual birth, he was there for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And also served as commissioner of the Grain Commission, right? So
I forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Barry's done it all.
He's done it all. Yeah.
Yeah, again, few people have done as much. I mean, I think that's one of the issues that we often have in agriculture is that we all stay in our lanes, and sometimes you got to get out of your lane and see a different part of the country, different part of the sector, different part of the value chain.
Perspective is good.
I don't know if I should tell. Well, I might as well tell this story on air. I had heard a story, and Barry, you can I know you listen, and you can tell us if it's true or not. But I had heard a rumor or a story that when Barry first moved to Guelph to head up the GFO, they were buying a house, and all he was moving from Winnipeg. All he was concerned about was an alarm system, which that makes sense. And but the realtor kept on telling him air conditioning. That should be number one. We don't need air conditioning. We're good.
Oh my God.
Well, Lyndsey, you know how sticky it is.
Yes. I will take
after buying the house, Barry was installing air conditioning.
Yes. Air conditioning, way more important.
Way more important.
Yeah.
Tyler, what else did you learn at Seeds Canada?
That I think we're in a bit of a moment in the seed sector in Canada. I think that there's been, for those of you, the listeners that don't know, I spent some time at the Seed Trade Association and Seeds Canada as they were going through the amalgamation. So I got to learn about some of the challenges and opportunities that were there, that exist. And we're like 5 years later, and those challenges and opportunities seem pretty similar, which is unfortunate. Lots of questions about plant breeding and where that's going to go. I think lots of concerns. They've been going through like a 5-year regulatory modernization process that may be a good example of these kind of failed government processes the current government keeps pointing to. Some concern about where that goes, what that looks like. But when I was on the panel, I asked the room how many people think Canada's the number one place in the world to develop and sell varieties, and nobody put their hand up. I asked who thinks we're number two. Nobody put their hand up. I said top 5. Got a couple of hands. Top 10, probably there was the biggest group, but there was still lots of people that said that we're not in the top 10 place to develop and sell seed varieties. And that should be a signal to people in government and the sector that we need to change that. If we want to look at growing the country and unleashing our potential, fixing the seed system, making it a better place to do business has got to be on the list of things that we fix.
Tyler, any insight into why it's not one of the top places in the world to bring genetics?
So there's probably a big caveat in that. Probably a lot of people don't see that as a big deal, right? That aren't worried about Canada not being a good place to develop varieties. And I think that is part of the problem, Shaun, is that there's a lot of comfort with the status quo. People see new varieties coming out, people see yields going up, and they're not really worried about what it looks like. But clearly, competition from Ag Canada and uncertainty around the future of the Ag Canada breeding program plays into it. Our regulatory footprint is tough. There's been some people involved that have been out touting, Canada's variety registration system, and I think that becomes a source of frustration because clearly it provides a benefit to farmers. But I think that there's also a view that maybe that benefit is overstated, and it is hard to understand that our system in Canada works, but farmers around the rest of the world that don't farm with similar regulatory footprints and oversight seem to be doing relatively okay when it comes to getting access to new varieties. And I think that again, these are some tensions that have been in the seed sector for a long time. But I think the message from Ottawa this week is that certainly regulatory oversight and footprints need to shrink. And I think that means that things are going to change in the seed sector.
Yeah. Kelvin, when we ask Canadian farmers, is public plant breeding a positive or negative on their farm business, it's one of the highest rated policy issues. Yet there seems to be a lot of lack of clarity from Ag Canada in terms of their direction when it comes to what public plant breeding actually looks like. And I think that lack of clarity creates the uncertainty for even the private side of investment as well. Feels like we could go back in time 8 years and we're still having the same discussion. Feels like things haven't changed.
Even longer, and it is. It's a matter of who funds it and how. What's the revenue model and who benefits, I guess, in terms of do farmers see higher seed costs ultimately, and what do they get for that cost down the road if there is less public investment in it. And it'll be interesting to see. And I think there is. Tyler talks about how there are still new varieties coming forward with better characteristics, better yield and stuff like that. But I do wonder whether there's also a lag in terms of realizing that we have a problem in the industry if some private partners start pulling out. We've seen some private partners leave the Canadian market. If we see more of that happen down the road too.
I think one of the problems that we've got is that we are actually seeing changes today. Ag Canada's footprint on breeding across different commodities is changing. We are seeing kind of those investments from private companies change, and not necessarily in a good way. The problem is right now it's all very ad hoc and haphazard, and there's no coherent vision and direction for where we actually want to go. And this has kind of broader consequences for the broader ag R&D space. But again, I think that there's this sense out here that we're in a moment and we need to start to figure these things out, or we are going to, as Kelvin says, all of a sudden realize that things that have been bubbling along under the surface for a long time are going to hit farmers square in the chest.
Okay, let's take a break. We got more coming up here on the Real Ag Issues panel. Tyler McCann, Kelvin Heppner, Lyndsey Smith back with you right after this quick break.
Right now, Saskatchewan wheat producers like you see a $33 return for every dollar invested in wheat breeding. And because of your contribution, Sask Wheat can drive innovation by funding research and initiatives that make wheat profitable and sustainable for generations to come. Varietal improvements, including better yields, are all made possible by you. See your impact and how we support it at every step at saskwheat.ca.
Hi, I'm Bernard Tobin, host of the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com. Throughout the year, on the Soybean School, we'll bring you timely agronomic video content from planting to harvest, from the latest agronomic research to the latest in production technology. Check out our massive video library on YouTube, RealAgriculture.com, or download the audio podcast versions wherever you get your podcasts. The Soybean School is brought to you by Mazik Seeds and Lalamon Plant Care.
The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is a video series that showcases the latest in canola research and production agronomy. Learn from some of the best at your own pace through quick and timely producer-focused videos available on our YouTube channel. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is the quickest way to keep up to date on all the latest in canola production. Boost your canola IQ with the Canola School, brought to you by BASF, and visit canolaschool.com.
And welcome back to Real Ag Radio. Hey, from nutrient management to the latest weather, market, and ag trends, The Dirt, an economics podcast, is your place for farm-smart topics to boost your profitability. Join host Mike Howell on Season 3 of The Dirt podcast, available now at nutrient-economicswithak.com. Okay, we got Real Ag Issues panel, Kelvin Heppner and Lyndsey Smith of Real Agriculture, as well as Tyler McCann of CAPI. And Lyndsey, we have the poll posted at realagriculture.com asking the audience, hey, what's your favorite rodeo event? And clear favorites, bull riding and chuck wagon races. They are definitely out in front. They got the lead by more than a couple wagon lengths.
So, very well done to incorporate that. I think I was at first when we first had the poll up, bull riding was getting zero love, and I was like, here we go. Vindication, because bull ride people get hurt and it's very scary, and sometimes it's very boring because the bulls always win. But no, of course it is. All right, fine. It's very exciting, and it makes us all happy, and there's a reason it's like the Keystone event. But thank you to everyone who did participate, because it was a lot of fun. We did also hear back on the events that we missed. I thought I had left a add your own, but apparently I didn't. But it was already such a laundry list that I felt a little bad about not including everything, but really great to see the love for chuck wagon races, 27%, bull riding 30%, and then everything else sort of was somewhere around that 6 to 8% of the vote. Saddle bronc and bareback riding did well as well. So we really appreciate it when everybody reaches out. Some of these polls are just for fun, to hear what people think and be able to share your favorite events, etc. Sometimes we do these polls to, get the pulse of what people are thinking about a particular topic or something, and sometimes they're just for fun. I will say, it really did. It sparked some really fun conversations about everybody's favorite fair or their favorite rodeo, or maybe something they did in the past of one of these events and don't do anymore because, like me, their joints hurt. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and thanks to everybody. And there's still lots of rodeo to come this summer, so keep it coming.
Yeah, it's Stampede definitely has gets you the appetite for rodeo and stuff like that through the rest of the summer for sure. I was watching the rodeo yesterday, and they had I don't think they call it novice; it may even be junior wild horse race, which was fantastic.
So cool.
It's actually some of the funniest stuff because the little horse's pony is like obviously nuts, and these kids are like being tossed and thrown and like just getting back up and live to fight another day. It's a lot of fun. So I made my opinion very clear to people on the Stampede board this week that the relay race needs to be on TV. So I did my part trying to get that relay race on TV, but I think going to need a louder voice than Shaun Haney.
Okay, everybody, if you agree, text them.
Oh, yeah. I love the relay race. We talked about this last week. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it is good.
It's so good. So good. Kelvin, what was your favorite event?
I'd put steer wrestling. I'm not sure where it ended up in the poll, but I'd probably put steer wrestling on at the top.
And for the people that have sent me notes that we left out breakaway roping, not my fault. Lyndsey's fault.
Yeah, blame me entirely. Again, I started with like the sanctioned events and then added a few and then realized it was going to be a page long and stopped. So yes, I apologize profusely. Please let me know next time what I should add.
I had somebody quite irate that we had mutton busting on there, but not the breakaway roping.
So also, does anybody, I put that on there. I'm the one who makes the poll. So of course I can put that on there.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, of course, we're talking about the rodeo because it is the week of the Calgary Stampede. We're in the middle of it here, this 10-day period, which is a marathon for everybody that has to be down at the grounds every day. But record attendance, and not only record attendance, but also record spend per patron as well. So, and this is a year where they were kind of worried that maybe things would be a little bit slower. But whatever it is, the U.S. travel, changing Canadian government, everybody has come to town to enjoy the Calgary Stampede, whether it's Chuck Wagon Rodeo, the fair, the food, the drink, concerts, or some of the meetings behind closed doors. It has definitely been a popular one. Kelvin, it really seems like in 2025 here, this Calgary Stampede is very much like it's kind of like almost like an economic summit with all the people that have been in town.
Yeah, it's actually wild to think about how a summer fair rodeo has turned into kind of the epicenter of Western Canada's economic government discussion, a forum for economic government discussion. And part of this is the moment that we're in with the trade issues with the Canada-US situation and also our new prime minister and more of a focus, Alberta being in the spotlight when it comes to investment and driving things that realizing that driving our economy is important and the role that Alberta plays in that in the future. And so, it seems like everybody, all kinds of dignitaries from across the country, from across North America have been in Calgary at some point this week to meet with people. And it's great to see that forum and that being recognized. Hopefully it's more than just symbolic, the symbolic trip out west for Stampede in the middle of July, that it actually turns into action. But this is the type of thing where those conversations need to take place. And so, exciting to see kind of that spotlight and recognition of, there's of course the masses that are in Calgary this week to take in the rides and the rodeo and everything. But it also seems like a huge number of dignitaries and decision makers, both corporate and from political government circles, that are also in the town, meeting and talking about these things.
Yeah. I was talking to Todd Orman from Olds College, and he was giving me a list of all of the dignitaries that he has been touring through the college. And it's like full-time tour guide of people of epic significance. It's, and a great opportunity, right? To, obviously there's some fun that goes with these 10 days, but also an opportunity to kind of showcase some of the things that are going on from a Canadian agricultural and energy, natural resource perspective. So
I was also reminded this week, Calgary Stampede started by an American. Guy Wiedek was from New York. So,
he was from New York.
That shows the integrated nature of the Canada-U.S. relationship right there.
Current CEO of the Stampede is from Colorado. Yeah. So
look at that cross-border love, which is great because everything is going great with the U.S. right now. So
well,
that's
it will eventually.
I'm glad you're so optimistic.
I'm numb to the topic. I don't know what
it seems the markets in some ways are too, like 35% tariffs. Wow.
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
Well, because it's
unless you work in the steel industry or the lumber industry or the auto industry, or
it is a big deal. But yeah, I think we're all a little.
And again, it's non-USMCA, Kuzma.
That's not confirmed. That's
maybe.
Yeah,
still a maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really a pushing back of the deadline. July 21st was the deadline that Canada had given in terms of getting this deal done. Now Trump is putting it to August 1st, and with the threat of boosting that base tariff by 10% to 35%. But yeah, it sounds like White House officials are saying Kuzma stuff would be exempt, but the final decision is still up ultimately Trump's to make on that. And so that is, it's what a wild way to run the biggest country in the world and biggest economy in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, I think, I got to do a couple interviews today, and I know the question is, what's Canada's reaction or what's Canada's approach here? So I'll throw it to you, the panel. What do you think the reaction should be? Tyler, do you want to go first?
No, I don't want to go first. I mean, this is the problem, right? Where the rule book has been thrown kind of so far out the window that I'm not sure that we've seen any great example of what is the right thing to do or not. I was sympathetic of the view before of let's kind of rag the puck as much as we can. Let's kind of do what we need to kind of stay out of the focus. Let's try and just kind of create a space where things go, I don't know, as easy as possible. But I guess that's not worked. I'm not sure. Fighting back doesn't seem to work either. So I think the unfortunate reality is that we may be damned if we do and damned if we don't.
Yeah, for some of our non-hockey audience, the reference of rag the puck, basically delay, hold, keep possession, and sort of live to fight another day as opportunities open up. And I'll put it to you this way: more and more, because I've been more in the camp of like speed ahead. Okay, like I kind of wonder if the UK has not maybe had the best strategy here. Now, outcome of that deal yet to TBD, but I've wondered that. But I think the real ragging of the puck here is actually happening from the White House. I think the ragging of the puck is stretching this threat and this tool and this narrative, stretching this out as long as possible. So I start to question more and more: does the White House actually want a conclusion to some of this? Like, the UK seemed to have found some conclusion. That's kind of an anomaly. If you look at the whole pattern here, the UK is the only country that has sort of been pushed to the side. The rest are still dealing with this, like where are we going? Kelvin, what do you think about that?
Oh, totally. I agree. I'm not sure that Trump actually he wants to keep pushing things in a certain direction of higher tariffs, but I'm not sure he actually wants a conclusion. He wants to live in the chaos and have everybody else around the world have to live in the chaos, because then they're constantly coming to him on bended knee and asking to be treated better. And like reading those letters, the letter that he posted to Prime Minister Carney yesterday, similar, that type of wording, where as long as you do what we say, we won't raise tariffs on you, as long as you keep doing what we say. And that's the thing. It's a non-stop process when you deal with a player like that. It even if you have a deal, what's it worth? I think there is another consideration to make in terms of how Canada approaches this is the IEPA court case. Those oral arguments start July 31st. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit is going to hear oral arguments on July 31st, and it could potentially be the U.S. court system that other countries around the world, including Canada, rely on to intervene and put the reins on some of this tariff action. And of course, Trump in his letter yesterday, that poorly written piece of writing, copy and pasted from all the letter to other countries, referred to fentanyl again and as one of the justifications for boosting the tariff to 35%. And so that's under the IEPA provisions. And if the court throws that out, that raises all kinds of questions, whether Trump will respect that, of course. And there's potentially a timeline there that Canada could be looking to frame its negotiations around it as well in terms of what the U.S. court rules.
I think as I was going through all that last night, I think the inclusion of the fentanyl narrative, again, a mistake by the White House because it loses people in this discussion. I think a lot of Americans can get their head around, what is Canada doing on dairy, or what is Canada doing with X? What is Canada doing with Y? But as soon as you the numbers speak for themselves. As soon as you include fentanyl in this, you kind of like, we're just making stuff up again. I think it's a mistake.
Otherwise, that's what gives him the emergency authority, though. That's what he needs to have the emergency authority to invoke it.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I think you've lost the narrative of the masses when you do that, is my opinion.
And a friend of RealAg and Cappy, Carlo Dade, has a good piece in the Globe and Mail yesterday talking about that court case dynamic and pointing out again that this may be everyone's saving grace. It doesn't take all of the pressure away because it isn't like he's using a variety of different tariff measures. There are other options, but this could take away the easiest one that he has and help reset that a bit.
Yeah, what I think, going back to 2-3 weeks ago, what Canada should not do is spend the weekend running around with a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off and just realize this is just all. There's going to be a conclusion to this at some point, and this isn't the end of the world. It is getting old, and it is. I think there's a lot of numbness to it. Yeah, like whatever, sure. Like especially when you talk to corporations. When I talk to a lot of clients, they're dealing on both sides of the border. They're sort of like, just let me know when it's over, and then we'll come up with a strategy that works for us. So trying to stay out of the ups and downs of it for sure. Hey, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to go back to the Calgary Stampede. I got questions about some of the things we heard this week at the International Livestock Congress, as well as the Ag Reception. This is like where Tyler and I get to expose some of the backdoor conversations that we had over a beer in Calgary. Right back on RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM.
I'm Lyndsey Smith from RealAgriculture.com. Join me Monday nights for The Agronomists, a 1-hour live and interactive show broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, and X. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, I host expert agronomists from all over the country to give you answers to some of the toughest agronomic questions. Join us live or catch the replay Tuesday morning. That's The Agronomists with me, Lyndsey Smith, Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern.
It's summertime, and you've got a lot of important decisions to make when it comes to your corn crop. Let the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com help guide you through those big decisions with input from leading experts in the field. If it's spray timing, disease identification, or any other field issue, the Corn School's got you covered. The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com. Brought to you by BASF and Pride Seeds.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio. Hey, Vaterstad air seeders and tillage products are built for farmers and engineered for results. See these products and other innovative solutions in Vaterstad's booth number 620 at Ag in Motion, or you can visit vaterstad.com. And I'm going to be, myself and Amber Bell from Real Agriculture are going to be on the grounds at Ag in Motion. I'm going to be there Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you do see me, please stop by, say hello. Going to be in the AGI booth for Tuesday's show, and Wednesday's show will be with BSF and Invigor. So looking forward to that for sure. Hopefully the weather is nice and warm. I know here in Lethbridge we're supposed to get a bunch of rain next week. I haven't checked out Saskatoon's forecast, but for those 3 days at least, let's hope for some sun and some nice weather. This week, as we mentioned, we were down at the Calgary Stampede, and Lyndsey, one of the frustrations. So I love going to cattle meetings, like the beef people. I feel that that's my roots. Had a great time at the International Livestock Congress. Tyler was there as well. Lyndsey, we were talking about regulation earlier from a seed perspective, but again, this example of. And I know people get tired of it, but this comparison in regulations between Canada and the U.S., biodigesters. Mm-hmm. So if I said, hey, you know what, you want to have a feed yard or a dairy with a biodigester, here's all the economic benefits, here's the environmental benefits, you would think Canada would be the leader in this area. Would you not, Lyndsey?
Yeah, you would, but you would be wrong.
You would be wrong.
That is correct.
And the difference in the regulatory process to get an approval for a biodigester, we're talking, I don't think I'm exaggerating here. We're talking the difference in the US of it being weeks, maybe months, Canada, years, if at all. And Lyndsey, when we're trying to attract capital, this is a great example of how we got to fix our own house.
And so much of it comes down just to red tape. It just comes down to approvals and to regulations and to meeting. And I happen to know, individual farms that had biodigesters that eventually, like, they stopped actually even pursuing it because it wasn't going to work. It didn't work. We do have some examples where they are in place. They do work well. But I just feel that, like, Canada is way behind in even just thinking strategically about how you potentially use biodigestin in all sorts of different ways. And it really comes down to, like, the people I've talked to one-on-one who have considered doing it and what it would take and what can you do with, all the energy and all that. It's a mess of paperwork and rules that don't really make sense, that essentially stop these projects from going forward entirely. And to me, I think it's a great example on the larger scale of, like, exactly that. If you're going to build a feedlot, expand your feedlot, et cetera, that may make you choose elsewhere. That's the sort of larger scale. But even on a smaller scale, we're missing out on a huge opportunity for our dairy farms, for, these sorts of things to actually be far more energy self-sufficient. And yeah, we've got some challenges with cooler weather, but that's not our biggest holdback. Like, by far not the biggest holdback to actually using this technology. It's all our rules and regulations.
Yeah. Tyler, you heard part of that discussion.
I did. And the other one that came up and certainly came up in the panel I moderated around breaking down barriers and unleashing our potential is interprovincial trade meat. And again, the people that were on my panel, which included someone, a beef producer, winery, and a distiller, they were all very keen on, let's tear down these borders, let's get these regulations out of the way so we can be successful. But I listened into a bit of a call yesterday that the government hosted to try and explain some of what's going on. And I tell you, there were a lot of people in that call saying, oh, don't go so fast. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves in breaking down these barriers. And let's make sure that we're not being too liberal in letting these provincially inspected plants send beef across the borders. And so I think that there is this reckoning that we're in where we're not prepared to make big changes. And I think that this is a really interesting example in the agriculture space where we can all say we want to make life easier. But again, there was more people saying, we kind of like things the way that they are.
For fear of what? What are we trying to avoid?
So I think that kind of often... Yeah, there's a food safety argument.
Really?
I think that because the provincial standards aren't the same, and some provinces they're a ways off from the federal standard. There's an international trade argument where, depending on how you did this, in theory, you would have to accept meat from a country with the kind of the lowest standard in Canada. I think that that's an overblown. I'm not a trade lawyer, but I think that there are ways that the government could do this that would really mitigate that risk. But I think at the end of the day, it's a question of, are we really going to embrace this kind of idea? We're going to break down barriers and make it easier to do business in this country. And there are a lot of vested interests. Again, one of the vested interests is if you are a federally registered facility, you don't want to make it easier for a provincial facility to take advantage of that interprovincial trade. And I don't know at what point in time we start to call more of these things out, but I think that is more of a barrier to change. Yeah.
When Elon finally brings Martians to planet Earth at some point from Mars or wherever they're coming from, they're going to look at some of the regulations that we have here in this country, and they're going to be like, whoa.
And they're just going to skip on by and go to the next planet.
I think so. Very possible.
Well, and it's interesting because so Minister McDonald was out talking to people, meeting people. I think it had a pretty good speech at the reception. I'm a big fan. I used to work for a politician that didn't read his talking points. I'm a big fan of politicians that can read the room and not read their talking points at his face like that. But he is clearly focused and engaged on these regulatory reform issues. I think there's a lot of scuttlebutt about we need to bring CFIA back to the ag portfolio. But this interprovincial meat trade, I think, is a really good example of changing who CFIA reports to. Doesn't actually change anything unless we're willing to tackle these issues inside it. Seed regulatory modernization, another good example. Like, we're not going to get meaningful regulatory reform just because it's in the ag portfolio. We actually need to be prepared and call on government to do these things.
Some of this has a lot to do. I was having this conversation with somebody at the Stampede on Wednesday. It's not just about the regulations themselves. It's the attitude around this whole environment. Moving from, oh boy, if we do that, then this is going to happen and we can't do it because of this. And then there's this other thing, we're just throwing up barriers. The attitude needs to be, how do we make this happen?
Yeah.
Those are all barriers, fully aware of it. But let's have a can-do, yes attitude around this stuff and push forward and make it happen. Otherwise, we're having the same conversation in 5 years. And quite frankly, I am exhausted ranting about this.
Well, and I was thinking as I was listening to people ask some questions and provide feedback yesterday on this call that the Ag Department hosted, that I think that before anybody does something like that, they should have to declare whether or not they have something to gain or lose by the change that they're asking for. Because, again, I think that, that bias is incredibly important, and we don't do a good enough job calling out kind of the vested interests that different people have in these changes.
Yeah, it was great to see Minister McDonald out at Calgary Stampede. I think he really enjoyed himself. Met his wife as well. I think they really enjoyed the opportunity to take part in. I know they went to the rodeo yesterday, I believe, and all the different meetings that happened, and meeting with some of the provinces. So I think they really enjoyed their time, and I always like when somebody laughs at my jokes. He liked my pot shot at the Prime Minister about how Minister McDonald can flip a better pancake than the Prime Minister. Now, that's a very low bar. If you've seen the video of Prime Minister Carney flipping that pancake, Kelvin, that might be just for a guy that played goal, that's a complete lack of motor skills.
I know this is like 10,000th on the list of priorities for what skills our Prime Minister should have, but how do you go to Stampede and try flipping a pancake and have no idea what you're doing?
No idea. It's like he had never flipped a pancake before.
That's like the most important thing you got to practice before you go to Stampede, or at least get some instructions on wait for the bubbles and wait for rather flip a well done pancake than too early, because that didn't go well.
I was surprised, Shaun, that I'm just used to Kelvin being the one taking shots at the Prime Minister. It was different to hear you do it.
I like the fact that Mr. McDonald leaned into it, right? At the International Livestock Congress, he's just let everybody know I flip a much better pancake than the Prime Minister. Lean into it. It was awkward.
We're in a minute where we need to kind of see him actually take some action. I think that's kind of getting to be kind of one of the big things that's out there. But I think that there was this sense that, oh no, another PEI minister. But I think culturally, I think he fits in pretty well with that Western crowd. And I think he's his head's in the right place, but now he's got to do something.
Yeah, there was, it's always interesting because I get to, I MC that ag reception, 800 people from across the industry, and not just it's not just an Alberta thing. I remember, going back, say 5-6 years ago, there was just mostly Alberta people in the room, and a few people would float in from across the country. It's that ag reception is turning into a real national event that is, I think, really one of the ag highlights of the year, to be quite honest with you. There's a lot of people in that room. That and hey, thank everybody that came up and said, they listened to the RealAg Radio and go to RealAgriculture.com. I saw a lot of audience members that evening, but it's a great opportunity for people to actually meet each other. There's a lot of people in that room because the industry has a bunch of different sectors and niches and verticals, and that's an opportunity to kind of bring everybody together. And it was interesting sitting standing stage right with the executives from Jeff Kroll from McDonald's, Jeff Vassert from Cargill was there. Shout out to them for sponsoring the event. But even seeing I think it's good to have that interaction between Minister Sigurdsson and Minister McDonald. It's an informal way for people to try to connect a little bit more personally. I think that's a positive.
It's probably the biggest event outside of Ottawa in terms of bringing together Canada's ag industry.
So.
Yeah. I think it may give Canada's Food Day a run for its money as far as the number of people that are there. You're really curious as to how that compares.
And you got McDonald's ice cream. That's the other part of it. There's McDonald's ice cream.
Does the machine work, though?
Yeah, exactly.
Well-
I will have you know, hang on. I'll have you know that I am running like 100% the machine always working. I feel blessed. So thank you, McDonald's, for always having my back and a vanilla cone.
Well, I was telling Jeff Vassart from Cargill this story that the last couple of years, I've tried to be like a really cool MC where I'm like, and like just to remind everybody all the different commodities that McDonald's buys from Canadian producers. Like I think McDonald's is a bigger supporter of Canadian and telling that story of Canadian agriculture and their marketing. I think it's marketing that the industry could not afford to pay for itself. So I think it's I'm a big fan of McDonald's. Also better coffee than Tim Hortons. I said it. I'm sorry. Just better. Anyway. In the past, what I've done is I've been like, and then they buy Canadian potatoes, and they got, we've got Canadian beef, of course. And I've gone through all these different commodities, and every time I think I'm fully inclusive of all the commodities that McDonald's would possibly purchase, I walk off that stage, and those commodity groups I don't mention, beeline to bug me about how I didn't mention their commodity. So this year, what I did is I played safe. They buy a lot of Canadian stuff. Pretty much something.
Could you be more general?
But it is
cucumbers in the relish, Shaun.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
But Jeff is probably one of those people that a lot of people in Canadian agriculture don't know, but has done a lot to show leadership in the sector, and he's on his way to retirement. And he is, again, I think that though some of these corporate people outside of the primary ag businesses maybe don't get the credit that they deserve from agriculture, and so it's important to give him a shout out.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, let's take a break. We got more coming up here on RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147, right after this. Built on over 100 years of seed innovation and unwavering commitment to farmers, Pioneer 100 Series canola hybrids deliver a step change in yield performance and agronomic traits. This isn't just better canola. It's different canola. Pioneer 100 Series. Contact your local Pioneer sales representative or visit pioneer.com/100 series to learn more today.
How's your seed quality? What should you treat with? What about herbicide carryover and environmental concerns? Spring is here, and you've got a lot of things to think about in regards to your pulse crop. The Pulse School on Real Agriculture has information and advice for all these questions and more to help you navigate this season. Brought to you by BASF. Pulse School episodes are available at pulseschool.com, realagriculture.com, or as a podcast on your favorite streaming service. Download the latest episode today.
We're having fun here on this Friday. It is the Real Ag Issues panel. Shaun Haney, Kelvin Heppner, Lyndsey Smith, all of Real Agriculture. And our compadre, they're over there at Cappy, the managing director. It is Tyler McCann. Okay, let's talk about budget cuts. Now, we've got instruction from the Prime Minister that the different departments, Tyler, have to find a 15% cut across the board.
Yeah, in 3 years, they need to have gotten up to a 15% spending reduction. So what they actually need to do is come back to the Finance Minister with proposals to get to 15%. So it doesn't mean that the 15% is actually going to happen. It may mean that departments end up at less than that. So you kind of ask for yourself, and then you give Cabinet choice to make it out. But this is, so not only that, there was a second letter that went out Monday that said, if you want to ask for any new money for the upcoming budget, it has to meet the 7 priorities the Prime Minister outlined in the mandate letter. And then there was another letter about regulatory reform. Departments need to come back with ambitious plans by Labor Day. So no summer holiday for cabinet ministers and their senior bureaucrats this year. They've got a lot of stuff to figure out so that the government can make big decisions this fall.
Curious where when rubber hits the road on that, where those cuts actually happen, Kelvin.
Yeah, and a lot of this is supposed to be in operations, not in things that drive the economy. That's the whole message that Carney has talked about, and Tyler has referred to frequently as well. The government still wants to invest, but what is deemed an investment in the Canadian economy versus operations, and so certainly government staffing lists are likely going to get shorter in this, and then the question is how does that affect delivery of what government does for Canadians, and then and likely. I'm not sure that you can get to some of these numbers in terms of cutting staff. You may have to cut programming and things that are considered investments, especially by stakeholders in industry, for example, in agriculture. Look at all the different places federal government spends money. A lot of those people who work in that specific sector might say that's an investment that the government's making, but likely will be closely scrutinized as part of this. So, yeah, the big question under Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, I guess, is what is in the line there, and also what is potentially excluded or exempt from these cuts, whether that includes business risk management programming and some of the large investments government makes on that side of things.
It has got to be a real culture shock in terms of how things have changed inside some of these departments. You know, we have moved from a culture of budgets balance themselves, don't worry about monetary policy from the leader, and now we are like, it just seems like we're like business cuts. Like Carney has he almost has a little bit of conservative flair, what we would expect out of the Poilievre government if they had been elected, Lyndsey.
Which is a whole other can of worms on how Poilievre is doing with his leadership going forward, and how he does in this election to win back a seat. But if I may pause for a moment on this idea, and I'm speaking of the government as a whole, and Tyler can probably weigh in on this as well. I know that a lot of departments are already talking about that realistically some of these targets will be met through retirements, attrition, that sort of thing. That will be a part of that personnel list that will likely shrink, etc. So there is, some savings essentially that will end up on there, that maybe just are earlier retirements or those sorts of things. There's that part. What I will find interesting, and I do sort of like that Carney's sort of taking this sort of Paul Martin type, going to the department first and saying, give me your savings, you get to tell me what you want to cut or whatever, and then potentially coming back and saying, okay, that wasn't enough or that is enough, and now we're going to come in and do it. But this has been a long-standing irritation of mine, and I know it is for a lot of other people in our federal service, is we, and everyone in Quebec is going to yell at me, and Tyler can tell me I'm nuts, but the French language requirement for training that we have in our federal service is an albatross of inefficiency and cost. And we have public servants who, if they want to climb the ladder, have to meet certain French language requirements in every single department, all across and we have people so we have to pay them their wage while they're taking French training. We pay for their French training, and then we pay their replacement to do their job while they're away for this French training. All so that people can meet a certain level of French language in our federal government. And I promise you, everybody, it is not efficient, and it is a gigantic waste of money. Am I saying that we shouldn't have a French option within every department so people can be served in English and French? No, that's what we should be doing. But that does not require every single public servant to be fluently bilingual. It is absolutely asinine.
And what I
go ahead, Tyler.
What I worry about, Lyndsey, is we could wipe that out, and we're still going to be nowhere near 15%.
I know, but
right, and
yes,
this is.
But it's all incremental.
I think we often like to think that we can just do these things. You could just fire a bunch of bureaucrats in Ottawa and save a bunch of money. Yeah. The amounts that they're talking about will not just be achieved by those efficiencies. They will not just be achieved by reductions in the civil service footprint. They will be done through reductions to programming. And I think that, again, that we're in a space where the sector is going to have to make choices. And the choice that the sector traditionally makes is spend more money. And so not only is that not an option on the table anymore, it is what is the real priority? Where does BRM fit into it? And you made the comparison to the Conservatives. I think that these reductions that are coming are far more aggressive than what the Conservative Party would have done had they been elected. Yeah, I think that this is a bit of a only Nixon can go to China moment on some of these things, where Carney and a Liberal government is able to make bigger reforms than what a Conservative government could.
Protests would already have started if it was Conservative.
And I will also add
less size of cuts, but more protests.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, for sure. Just because of, that's when, your reputation precedes you. So the other thing I will say that I have found interesting, and I don't know how much gets seen sort of out of the Ottawa bubble, but, some of the representatives of the staff in the public service have basically been coming forward with, more of us should be able to work from home. Like, these should be some of the things that will add to these savings. But I think Tyler's bang on. I think that they're living in a bit of a dream world if they think that, like, something like that is going to save the kind of dollars we're talking about. Like, so to my point about whether it's French training, et cetera, like, it's going to have to be all of these things. It's not any one thing. It's going to be 15, 20 different things that add up to this. And
again, 15% is a drop in the bucket when it comes to meeting the commitments that Carney has made on the NATO side of things, the defense spending side of things. 15% is, again, it's going to have to be all of the above in terms of increasing deficits, higher taxes, and cuts to government spending to have any chance at meeting the spend that is going to be required there, and economic growth at the same time, which of course there's that's a double-edged sword, because as the economy grows, Canada's commitments or contribution will have to also increase at the same time. So it's a bit of a disincentivizing signal there.
Yeah, there's a opinion column in the Globe and Mail from yesterday about how Carney needs to match some of the some of the tax cuts and reforms that are in the budget reconciliation bill in the U.S. if they want to stay and remain competitive. Okay, that's all the time we have. If you want more, you got to stay for the bonus round or RealAg B-sides. This maybe for all of you that used to have cassettes. Hey, Tyler, have yourself a great weekend.
Great. Thanks, Shaun.
All the best, Kelvin.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
And Lyndsey, I know you're going to have a great weekend.
Yes, thank you all.
Okay, if you have any feedback, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. And everybody else that's listening to the RealAg Radio podcast, stay on for more. Everybody else, have yourself a great weekend. Thank you so much for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. Cheers, everybody. All right, RealAg. Lyndsey, do you prefer RealAg B-sides or RealAg, the bonus? Like, what?
So first of all, B-sides are records, not tapes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Is it really, though? There was the A and the B side?
Yes, but it's from back in the record days where you'd have to flip it over.
See, I'm not that old.
The B-sides.
Yeah,
yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Understand that.
Thank you, Shaun. That's right. Yeah, and I also took a horse and buggy to school. So that's fine. Perhaps I'm just more cultured. Anyway, I don't mind the B-sides. I like RealAg After Dark, but that doesn't really work. That's for, like, primetime show.
That's a different show.
That's a different show entirely. That's where, things really get fun. But no, I like the bonus segment.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. We'll stick with that. Mm-hmm. Kelvin, what did we not get to this week?
Oh man, what did we? I guess U.S. shutting its border to cattle again from.
Oh, this screwworm thing can just screw off. Like this is bad.
It's really.
You can say that, but it's coming. It's not showing any sign of really having been stopped here. So,
no. And as a sheep producer who is dealing with fly strike, which is in the same family as screwworm, you do not want this to move. It's awful.
Yeah, and they're clearly trying to keep the border open, but they keep, it keeps on showing itself as like whether it's premature or just they just can't. And
well, yeah, and one of the and like I get it, because realistically, if an animal carries the larva across the border, let's say, they drop into the environment, and then they're not super selective of hosts, so they will start to propagate within wildlife populations, deer, like all sorts of things, right? So I get it, but it is also sort of it's kind of fallout from potentially not having been continually pushing to keep the sterile fly barrier pushed far enough south. But it is, like, I get where the U.S. is coming from, but it's also incredibly disruptive, of course, to the beef supply chain.
Yeah. 1 million fewer cattle a year come north from Mexico on a typical year. Of course, this year is going to be down because of the border being closed and open off and on. So it's definitely a major issue that is disruptive to the beef market that, it has its own struggles right now of trying to sort out which direction it's going. And I know for the past 2-3 years, it's been a case of, how much higher can beef prices go? And beef prices have just said we can go higher. and
Has anyone
already
called
dealing
it,
with shortage of supply. That's
yeah. Has anyone called a top yet?
No, I don't. Well, I think there's no. I don't think anybody's brave enough to, because it's
Tyler is. Tyler will call the people.
No, I don't know. I mean, again, we've only got a couple of calves in Western Quebec, but I continue to be surprised what they sell for when I go to the sales part. And it's just hard to know, and you kind of feel for Anne and others that are trying to provide commentary around where it goes, because these things keep happening. And again, I think there was some surprise that they did close the border the first time because of the volume of cattle that come across. And I think that there was this kind of sigh of relief when they opened the border again, but that did not last. And so, what lesson have they learned, and how long it's going to stay closed for this time is going to be an interesting thing to follow.
Okay, Lyndsey, what did we not get to?
Oh, crumb. I like that you went to Kelvin first, because I was like, I should figure this out. On the point of pestilence, we did confirm tar spot showing up in Ontario. It is right on cue. Basically, we expect it sort of around this time of year. So Albert Tenuta did confirm that earlier in the week at Ridgetown, that they've confirmed tar spot. It's a relatively new corn leaf disease for Ontario. Pretty significant if you've got levels of it, and if conditions are conducive, which is leaf wetness is key to this disease, everybody. And if you don't spray, it can be pretty devastating if you've got it and if conditions are ripe. So shout out to everybody who joins me on The Agronomist Monday night. Albert is going to join me, as well as Stephanie from Syngenta, and we're going to talk about it on The Agronomist on Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk about tar spot.
Tar spot.
Very timely.
Of corn. So timely. It's like I knew it was coming, everybody. Yeah, anyway. So
You got Albert Tenuta on speed dial. He's just like, you're getting...
you know what? I really appreciate Albert Tenuta, but he does not say yes very often. So I also appreciate that he said yes. He's a busy man. He's got a lot going on. So yeah, I do appreciate that he's going to join me.
He'll be in a good mood. The Blue Jays are in first place. Huge Blue Jays fan, that Albert Tenuta. So he'll be in a good mood. Not everybody's as pessimistic on the Blue Jays as Kelvin.
That's right. We learned this week that they're actually not bad, Kelvin. You shouldn't have thrown them out in the first week. That was mean.
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
Still half a season to go. You're in a good spot.
Yeah, okay.
They could be 5 games up with 4 games to play, and Kelvin's like, there's still room here. We got. You are a true Toronto sports fan.
I was going to say, and yet he's a Leafs fan, where just the optimism knows no bounds. So I don't understand the difference.
But Lyndsey, those could be some of the worst Blue Jay fans, because they've been stained and hurt.
I am ready to be hurt
just
again.
The trauma is deep.
Yeah, it cuts deep. And yeah, okay. Well, I'll dust off my jersey for Monday Night Show for Albert. How's that sound?
Okay. Yeah. Tyler, what did we not get to?
I'd like to give you 2. I got a policy one and a political one. The policy one quickly. In the flurry of letters that was getting sent around this week, the clerk of the Privy Council, so Canada's top senior bureaucrat, sent a message to all of the bureaucracy talking about the change that he's expecting from the work that they do, saying he wants to see focus, simplicity, and accountability. And I tell you, those 3 things have been missing from Ottawa for the last decade, and it is quite a message across the bow. And I think the political one, both the NDP and the Conservatives have been in the news a bit this week for challenges around the leadership front. I think Hillary's come more talking about kind of whether or not Poilievre may be in trouble and how much support he's actually got in the party. And the NDP being potentially in pretty dangerous fiscal or financial position, and they may be in really rough shape. Never mind, kind of trying to find a new leader. They may not be able to keep the party going. So I think that those 2 kind of good day to be a good time to be a Liberal in Canada. Apparently, not so great on either side.
Yeah, Abacus Data had some of the popularity of Poilievre, and basically he's popular in Alberta. That was pretty much, that was the nook and cranny of it.
I feel go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to say, you hear some of the reporters that have written stories after the kind of Poilievre's time in Calgary. Doesn't even sound like he's that popular in Calgary, or not as popular as people expect him to be. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does certainly feel like Carney's making a lot of, moves that exactly that would have shades of blue to them. And I mean, yes, Parliament's not sitting, so we're not seeing, a lot of political theater, etc. But like, he lost and has sort of dropped off the radar for a while, and people don't seem terribly upset with Carney as of yet. So I get that he's still obviously very popular in certain areas, but I don't know. I don't feel like, there's a lot of love lost for him at this point. So the numbers don't surprise me. Sorry, Kelvin, go ahead.
But it makes sense why he's gone to the why he drifted into the background to take a pause here. That makes total strategic sense to me.
But again, I don't think it's because he lost. I think it's because they can't figure out how to oppose Mark Carney and what he's doing, right? Like, that is, what ground do they stand on? I mean, like, that's their issue.
Yeah. Well, like we said it earlier, there's things that liberals in Canada can do that conservatives can't. And if the conservatives did it, it would be protests and people, the news would be spinning like crazy. And it's just, that seems to be, I don't know if it's a fact, but it seems to be a bit of a reality.
To me too, it's curious that they haven't pivoted. Like, there hasn't been a change in his like the speech that he gave at the Stampede. What I understand was exactly the same as a pre-campaign speech a year ago, and I'm curious why they feel like they need to run it back, or whether they just don't know how else to. Maybe that's the only thing that he can. Maybe that's the only way he knows how to run. And Carney too. I think for as short on. Carney's not exactly the most charismatic political leader, but we joke about his pancake flipping. There's a self-deprecating. There's a real. Carney comes across as a real person. When it comes to press conferences with media, he spends time giving thoughtful answers. It's not just talking points like Poilievre and Trudeau used to do. And so I think that's another thing about Carney, where he's taking a bit of the appeal of Poilievre and showing that you can have a real person in that leadership role. So there you go.
Yeah,
Tyler.
that's not the impression, Kelvin, that was communicated to me from a lot of people that spent time with him at the Stampede this week. I got robot, unemotional. Okay.
But that's what people expect from him. And what is Poilievre? Like, Poilievre shows very little ability to adapt to the crowd and to the questions. To me, he sticks to his. He's very highly disciplined in his messaging, and Carney definitely comes across as more flexible and willing to adapt to that he's listening. And this is one of President Trump's skills, is that he always shows he's listening to the people that he's in conversation with, in the room with, and I think that appeals to voters.
Yep, it does. Yeah. I fear for Poilievre, having your riding in Alberta will not be helpful to him. Politics is different here than any other place in the country. Mm-hmm. I see it. The attitude is different than anywhere else in the country. And so he may have, a prime minister of Alberta may have a lot of, or someone trying to be prime minister out of Alberta, I think has challenges from a branding perspective.
Mm-hmm. And I think that there's always that worry that a pivot will be a pivot more to the right, even like kind of play into some of those things that I don't think works. Sorry, Lyndsey.
Especially if it's on immigration or social type issues like that.
Right. Well, it's a really interesting where there's all these things being said by people about Alberta, yet it's the fastest growing province in the country, where people are flocking here to Alberta in droves. It's like a really interesting sort of thing that it's kind of like a little bit of the Texophonia, where people say stuff about Texas, but underneath there's like, the taxes are lower, and Dallas is exploding. Very similar to like Calgary.
Very similar.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Well, great week. Looking forward to watching the Stampede over the weekend. Sportsnet's doing a really good job. I think maybe one of the best color commentators in sports is Mr. Glass, Tommy Glass, who provides like the most, like, just talking cowboy. Like, it's I actually get a real.
It's really great.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, I like how they like Sportsnet's doing a good job of like, oh, it's a family affair in the barns and everybody helps out. They don't talk about some of the other shenanigans in the barns
because it's for TV.
I know.
Some of that should stay offline.
Somebody had said to me, like, if you're a chuck wagon driver, you're essentially a carny. You basically
with livestock.
With livestock,
like a midway carny, not a prime minister carny.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yes, thank you for catching.
Spelling is important. Yeah,
it's awesome. Like, it's weird how it's just like an Alberta thing.
What is
rodeos?
No, the chuck wagon races.
Oh, yeah. They are a major thing.
So the CEO of the Stampede told us a story at the ILC that where Tyler had already skipped out. I stayed till the end, and gave an address where he talked about some of the history of the Calgary Stampede, and Kelvin had pointed out it was Wiedek from New York that started it. The original chuck wagon races, there were 3 wagons, not 4, so there was originally 3 wagons.
Yep.
And the race didn't end until you got back past the start finish line, unloaded the units all out of the back of the wagon, and you had smoke. You had lit a fire.
Oh,
wow!
But the problem was, see, even in the early 1900s, people were very ingenious. The driver started to soak the wood in kerosene,
so it would go bam.
I don't know if it's a true story. That's the story that he told. So
it would not surprise me. I mean, it's competition. You got to get something to light right away. I can only imagine.
Oh,
yeah.
All of a sudden, that burning wagon, you're starting the fire early too.
It's starting the fire early as you go across the finish line. No one said the chuck wagon has to be intact after it.
Well, of course, in the early days too, they had actual working wagons.
Yes,
like they were, people brought wagons.
I gotta tell you, like, I love chuck wagons, and I love the racing, but I really recommend everybody, you need to, as the little, like, in-between show, like Agribition does, you need the mini chucks. So they're teeny little chuck wagons with teeny little miniature horses, but
you guys cheating.
But grown-ass men, and it's amazing. It is, because the little ponies, well, they're horses, but the miniature horses don't know they're little. They go so fast and they're trying so hard with their like teeny little legs. It's very entertaining. It's like watching corgis. Like, yes, it's amazing. Please have this.
We're getting older, Lyndsey, but I think the bull riders are getting younger.
Yes, actually, we could actually be their parents several times over, I'm sure. So it's fine. Man. But that's because you're still bendy at that age. So yeah, and you don't have any responsibilities. You can go ride these ridiculous animals. It's okay.
I would love to be on like in the booth for like the rodeo for the afternoon. That would be so much.
So maybe next year. Let's put this on Shaun's bucket list.
I always dream. Well, Rural Radio doesn't have the contract anymore. I always dreamed that they were like, so and so can't make it.
Yeah.
And
then you're like, yes, now it's my time.
It never
to
happened.
Shine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here's my moment.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the call to do the Kentucky Derby ride along at the end with the microphone and the riding.
Oh, you would be the Billy Melville.
No one's calling me, but I would totally do that.
I was joking the other night. Billy Melville does the post ride. They're going around, and he's. Mm-hmm. I've always thought like of calling him during that and see if he has a cell phone on and see if I could.
Like, hang on. Anyway,
Billy does a great job. He listens. Some of those chuck wagon drivers in that post race are less than communicative, and for those of us that have had to interview people where they don't really want to talk, it is.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He has some work cut out for him, but Billy does a great job of that. Okay, let's wrap up. Everybody has to take on the day. Encourage everybody to check out RealAgriculture.com as you're perusing the news over the weekend into next week. And if you're not getting our emails, make sure you go to RealAgriculture.com/subscribe. Thanks everybody for getting real and getting connected with Real Ag Radio. Hopefully you enjoyed the bonus round, and we'll chat with you again next week. Cheers, everybody.